Hi, Kim Ray here with the first episode of my new series, Redstone Zero to Hero. This series is going to aim to teach the average Minecraft player how to use Redstone. Now, I am no expert. I don't make anything as ridiculous and innovative as people like SethBling or XumaVoid or other great people that are known for their Redstone capabilities, but this will teach those people that have all this redstone sitting in their chests that they have no idea what to do with it. It'll teach them how to implement that and use it and do some interesting things that, they might not normally be able to do. So this is going to assume you have absolutely no knowledge about redstone. Like, you have mined this stuff out of the ground and that's as far as you've gotten. So with that in mind, let's begin. Alright, so first thing we want to do is take a look at this. You've got your redstone ore, which you have gone down, you've mined it, and it drops these. So you've picked up your redstone dust. Now, redstone dust can be placed on the ground, and that is what is essentially makes up your wiring. This will transmit your power. Next, we have the redstone torch, which you can craft from the redstone, which is used to provide power to your redstone circuits. Also, there is the redstone repeater, which is an important part of redstone circuits as well, which you use to connect it to your dust and other things. Then you have the comparator, which can function in a few similar ways to the repeater, but has its own very distinct purpose. The final thing that you can use your redstone to craft, as far as base components go, is the block of redstone, which can be used as a redstone storage, or it can be used as movable power for your components and your circuits. The next thing that I want to cover is how power flows. Now, your base component for the movement of power is your redstone dust, which acts as the wire. Now, you can power this in a number of ways, but a very simple way for demonstration purposes for how power flows is just to use a lever. So you can see it lights up when you have power flowing through it. Now, redstone dust will carry power 15 blocks before it falls off. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if I go over here and I turn that on, you can see it glows and lights up all the way to the end. Now if I add this 16th block, you can see that is not glowing. There is no power going into this bit of redstone dust. So 15 blocks is as far as you could power it from something giving it full power. In addition to the redstone dust, you have the repeater, as shown here. Now the repeater has a couple of uses. The most common is probably to extend a line of redstone. You can see on this 16th block, this dust is actually powering the repeater, and it is actually extending it another 15 blocks. Now that is extremely useful because I might have my input being the lever over here, and then say 30 blocks that way I'm wanting to power something or do whatever. I need it to run all 30 of those blocks, and that's where the repeater comes in. Now one of the interesting things about the repeater is you can see it's got this little lit up section right here behind the second torch. Now this is where if you right click on the repeater, you see I've pushed that second torch back a little bit. Now this is to change the number of tick delay on the repeater. Now a tick is an amount of in-game time that passes. Now normal Minecraft ticks are every 0.05 seconds, so 20 game ticks per second. Now Redstone does not use exactly that same tick system. Redstone checks every 0.1 seconds, so 10 redstone ticks per second. So when the repeater is on no delay, where it's just right here at the front, that is just a 1 tick delay. That means a 0.1 second delay. So every time I right click on this, it pushes it back. So this is a 0.2 second delay, or a 2-tick delay, or 3-tick, or 4-tick, which is useful for delaying the transfer of the signal from this dust to this dust. Another Redstone component is the comparator. Now the comparator, as you can see, works similarly to the repeater in that it will allow the signal to go further. But the difference is the comparator does not re-strengthen the signal. So when this 15th block comes into the comparator, it doesn't output for 15 more blocks. It will output equal to its input, being this is a power of 1, meaning it outputs a power of 1. As you can see, that is lit and that is not. Now there are two modes to comparators. This is a comparison mode, which I will explain in a moment. If you right click on it, this torch lights up and it goes into subtraction mode. Now the thing about comparators, they compare. It's all in the name. So this, as you can see, it's lit up, and this should give it all kinds of signal because it's really close to the lever here. Now we can see it's coming and getting power from the back. Alright, if you look at the comparator, in order for it to compare, it compares the signal that comes in the back to the signal that comes in from one of the sides. So these are equal, as you can see. This is putting the same amount of power into the back as this is putting into the side. This is equal. So you are going to get exactly what's coming in. Now if I were to subtract it, it is taking this, and they are being subtracted, and that is being outputted. The answer to this subtraction problem is being outputted, but with this being the same, the output would be 0. Now, if I were to extend this, these are now not the same, meaning that the output, if in subtraction mode, would be 1 power, and in addition, or in comparison rather, it'll go all the way down because it is outputting what is equivalent to the larger power. Now when it compares, it's comparing to what's coming in the back. So if I were to move the lever back here, now that the lever's back there, I can turn that on. As you can see, it is not being powered because the side is receiving a greater signal than the back. So it's always going to go with, it's wanting to output the signal coming from the back as opposed to the side. So this is useful in a number of ways, which we can get into later in the series. So you might be thinking to yourself, that's great, we can get a redstone signal from one point to another along a flat plane. But that's not exactly going to cover all of the great capabilities and the great need that we have when creating things. We might want to get power from here to something up here. Now, you can just stair-step your way up and supply power that way, but there's a myriad of possibilities for moving power up and down. So, first things first, we'll stick with the simplest one, being the redstone dust. So, dust will transmit power straight across, but it will also power this block, which is then going to change the state of this torch. The same thing happens with repeaters. It powers this block and will change the state of redstone touching this block. It's supplying high power to this block, which is then supplying low power to everything around it. A repeater will do this. It will power through the block, if it is a solid block. Dust will not. redstone dust will just take care of the immediate redstone. So this would be useful to say, I want to power something up here. I can do something like this and do a line of torches, because they will each change the state of the one above them when they change state. You can see that's on when this is receiving power, and it's off when it's not. Redstone will behave differently with different blocks. So if we, for example, take a couple of these blocks and take it, so it'll power through this. Oh, let me change that. Okay. It will not power through glowstone. It will not power through glass. This becomes a solid block, which is not exactly helpful. Okay, so an upside down slab it does not power through. However, these blocks are useful because they will also not cut off power. For example, if we were to take this and build up around here, say dust there, and then we'll go back down. Oh, sorry. Okay, power is being supplied. Now, if I put this on top there, redstone cannot, the dust can no longer supply power to this because it has been cut off by this block. Now, this is kind of a problem because let's say I wanted to move power vertically without a delay that you get from torches changing state or repeaters ticking. They have those tick delays, whereas redstone, the dust, is instantaneous in its state change. So something very quick would be to do something like this, but as you can see, it is cut off. But if we use glowstone or upside down slabs, we don't have that problem when moving vertically. So if I take this, I can place dust, and you can see it glows all the way to the top. Moving vertically, these blocks in this sort of configuration do not cut off the power. Now, cutting off power could be beneficial because if you have, say, two separate circuits that run parallel to each other at two different heights this close together, you can see that the dust connects. But if I place blocks there to cut it off, I now have two circuits running parallel to each other, and they do not interfere. So there is a benefit to cutting off the signal, but sometimes you want something more like this, which, like I said, can be achieved with glowstone or the upside down slabs. Next, we'll look at how repeaters transfer power with other blocks. So, we know that a repeater will light up and transfer power into and through solid blocks, most solid blocks. And this is useful. You can also power through the top of the block like this, as we showed with the torch. This particular setup is useful for, say, doing something like this. It is now powered up there, and you can move the signal directly over and back from the input here. So this is useful, and I've seen this used in things like, there's a bud switch I saw that uses this, which we'll get into bud switches later in the series. I've seen item sorters, those sort of systems that use this sort of thing to keep things sort of tileable and very compact, because normally to achieve something like this, you would have to take this and, stair step up and around to get power going back that way. And the other way is a little bit more compact and cleaner. comparators, when powering blocks, function pretty much the same way as the repeater. So if I turn this on, you'll see it powers into and through that block, but not through things like glowstone and glass, just like the repeater. Now, as a point of comparison, I have set up an equally sized line of comparators and repeaters to demonstrate that these transfer the signal on a tick delay exactly the same way. You can see them all lighting up and turning off at the exact same time. So they can be used pretty similarly, although the comparator has a more specific purpose and is better suited to other tasks. Plus, you cannot get that tick delay, which is necessary for certain components. Alright, so that's all I have for you guys today. We went through the very basics, just to sort of overview the type of things that we'll be working with, more of the basic things, and give you an idea of how power can be transferred, and sort of laid the foundation for all of the Redstone skills that you'll acquire by the time you get done watching all my videos here. So next time we'll go through simple inputs and outputs. This means the very simple ways that you can apply your input, which being the way that your contraption gets power, and outputs being the simple ways that you can use your contraptions to output and change the states of different things in the game. So, thank you for spending the time watching this video. My name is Kimray, and see you later.